Enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Stay near to the clear and far away if it's unknown. It's based on knowledge, gentleness, and patience. Let's work on doing things to get it to the next level. Enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Stay near to the clear and far away if it's unknown. It's based on knowledge, gentleness, and patience. Let's work on doing things to get it to the next level. Enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Stay near to the clear and far away if it's unknown. It's based on knowledge, gentleness, and patience. Let's work on doing things to get it to the next level.
Rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our class, Enjoining Good and Forbidding Evil. And I apologize for being late, but I had to deal with some issues here. I'm sorry for that. But alhamdulillah, this is the class whereas we are discussing how important it is to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. How everyone, most Muslims, if you were to ask the average Muslim, is enjoining good and forbidding evil a responsibility upon all of us, they would all give you the correct answer, yes. But if you were to ask those same Muslims, how do we go about enjoining good and forbidding evil? This is where you will find the problem. Because in order to enjoin what's good and forbid what's evil, there are certain etiquettes that has to be followed. Number one, you have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to ask yourself, will I cause more harm or will I cause more good by approaching this person or by doing this thing? And also, you have to have knowledge. That's the most important thing. You have to have knowledge of what it is that you are enjoining. And sadly, most Muslims do not know the lawful and the unlawful. And because we don't know what's lawful and we don't know what's unlawful, we end up causing more harm than good. As we talked about in our previous class today, suicide. Suicide is on the rise amongst our Muslim youth. Why? Because there are certain brothers out there releasing fatwas telling you that there's two types of suicide, when there's no such thing. Allah didn't say that there's two types of suicides. He said all suicide is haram. All suicide will be punished with an eternity of hell. So because we don't know what's lawful and we don't know what's unlawful, we end up causing more harm than good as a nation. And remember, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, let your enjoining of what's good be good, and do not allow your forbiddance of evil be evil. Because when we transgress that, when we transgress that philosophy, he said there will be nothing but chaos. And that's what's happening today. We look at our nation as a whole. Our nation is in chaos because they don't know what to enjoin and what to forbid. Okay? So we also talked about when it comes to enjoining good and forbidding evil, there are certain steps we follow. Who can remember what are the 3 steps? Can anyone remember what the 3 steps are that we follow when it comes to enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil? Can anyone tell us what are the 3 steps? I have a lot of people in my Zoom room. Nobody knows the answer. Sabrine, you got your mic open. You got an answer, Sabrine?
If you're able to change it with your hands, then you change it with your hands. And if you can't do that, you move on to the next step and change it with your tongue. And if you can't do that, you move on to the next step and change it with your heart by making dua.
Exactly. That's the methodology that we use. If you see something bad, then we should change it physically if we can. And if we can't do that physically, then move to the next step, which is speaking out against it. And if we can't do that, then the last step, which is at least praying against it, making dua against it. It's when we fail to do anything. What happens when we fail to do anything, guys? What happens as a result of not doing any of that? What's the result?
If we don't do anything, then Allah will punish us all.
Exactly. It's when we fail to do anything that Allah will send down his punishment to all. And that's sad. But this is why what's happening in the world today is happening. It's all happening because we're not enjoining the good. We're not forbidding the evil. Or if we call ourselves doing so, our good is evil and our evil is evil. So this is why Allah has sent this punishment to us. What we're facing today, the thunderbolts, the earthquakes, the landslides, the war, all of these are the punishments that Allah has promised. Allah has promised to send as a result. So you don't want to be a person that does nothing. You know, you can at least make dua. But you don't want to be a person that causes chaos either. And in order to tackle this topic, we have to understand as Muslims that Allah tells us that it's our nature. It's our nature. It's our nature as humans to do the wrong thing. Why? Why? Because the human soul is criminal by nature. The human soul is attracted to everything that's dirty. That's why people like pornography. That's why people like to read books with sex in them. That's why people like to watch movies with sex in them. That's why we're attracted to the hip hop culture. The hip hop culture is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The human soul is attracted to everything that's dirty and bad. So this makes our struggle to do what's right even harder. And that's what I'm going to be speaking about tonight. So let me put the PowerPoint. Okay, so tonight we're going to speak about how the human soul, how Allah, and by the way, I don't make the rules, I don't make the laws, I don't make the circumstances. Allah does all of that. And so he's the one that tells us that the human soul is criminal by nature. He tells us this in the Quran, that the human soul is attracted to sin. And that's what makes our enjoining of the good. That's what makes our forbidding of the evil so hard for us. Because we're attracted to the evil. That's just the human way. So, let's take a look at this. Remember Tawheed, which is the oneness, belief in the oneness of Allah. Oh, by believing in the oneness of Allah, this brings about promises of reward for us. The simple fact that we believe La ilaha illallah, it will bring about reward, but it also brings threats of punishment too. It also brings threats of punishment. In fact, that was the first thing that Allah sent down. The Quran was revealed in stages. The first part of the Quran was filled with promises of rewards and threats of punishment. Where's my Dalil? Right there in Bukhari. Yusuf ibn Mahak. And by the way, he was not a relative of Aisha, radiallahu anha. So this is more proof that a woman can teach a man. Because Aisha, radiallahu anha, was one of the first scholars of Islam. The men would come and ask her questions. They would stand outside her door through a curtain, or they would stand outside her window. The same way the brothers here stand outside my computer and ask me questions. Well, Yusuf ibn Mahak, he tells us that he was at Aisha, the mother of the believer's house, when an Iraqi man came to her. And this Iraqi man asked her, which shroud is the best to wrap a person in? A shroud is what we use when a person dies. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, said, what's wrong with you? What happened? She was curious as to why he would ask her that. She said, what happened? He said, oh mother of the believer, show me your Quran. And she asked him why. He said, so that I can arrange and order the Quran according to yours. Because the one I have is not in no particular order. He said, I want to put my Quran in the same order yours is in. And Aisha said to him, what difference does it make which part of the Quran you read first? She said, it doesn't make any difference because the first verses of the Quran that were revealed was a surah from amongst the short surahs in which is mentioned paradise and hell. And after the people began to convert to Islam, the next thing that Allah sent down were verses about the lawful and the unlawful. She said, if the first thing that Allah sent down was the lawful and the unlawful, for example, if the first thing that Allah sent down was do not drink intoxicants, the people would have said, no, we're not going to stop getting drunk. And if the first thing that Allah revealed were do not fornicate, do not commit adultery, the people would have said, I'm never going to give up sex. So the following verse that I'm getting ready to tell you, she said, was the first verse revealed to the prophet in Mecca when I was a young girl playing. And that verse was, no, the hour of judgment is more grievous and painful than any other hardship that a Muslim may find in the way of Allah in this life. And then she said the chapters of Al-Baqarah and An-Nisa, which contain the rulings of the lawful and the unlawful, were revealed. She said, but those were not revealed until I was married to him and living with him as his wife. For those of you who don't know, Aisha was married to the prophet at the age of 6. That's how they did back in the 6th century. Everyone, the Vikings, the Romans, the Persians, kids were married to someone when they were young, but they did not fulfill the duty of husband and wife until the children were puberty. Aisha did not move in as a wife until she, first of all, reached the age of puberty, and then she had to agree to it, which she did. Okay, so here you can see in this hadith here a few things. Number one, there's nothing wrong with a man seeking knowledge from a woman, because many were the men who came to seek knowledge from Aisha, as this authentic hadith in Bukhari manifests. Number two, you learn that women are not stupid. Some women are more intelligent than men, as Aisha was in this authentic house from Sahih Bukhari. And number three, you learn that when the Quran was first revealed, the Quran was not revealed in a certain order. The order in which our book is in today was not how the Quran was revealed. It was Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, who arranged the Quran in the order it's in today. Okay? And number four, you learn that the first verses that Allah sent down were verses about paradise, and verses about the hellfire. Allah didn't tell us the lawful and the unlawful until later, after the faith had grown in people. And this is a big lesson that we as da'ah and as people who call ourselves giving dawah need to know. When people come to you asking you about Islam, you don't talk to them about the lawful and the unlawful. You don't tell them about polygamy. That type of stuff should not even be discussed. The first thing that you should call them to is the rewards of believing in Allah. Teach them about La ilaha illallah and the rewards of believing in that and the punishments of not believing in that. That's the first thing, Tawheed, that we call the people to. Polygamy and all that other stuff is much, much later on. Okay? So, but it's not our nature as human beings to do that. Because again, we like drama. There's no drama in hearing about paradise. There's no drama in hearing about hell. Those verses are cut clear. The drama comes in polygamy. The drama comes with the lawful and the unlawful. And as a result of this, it's our nature to end up having differences about enjoining good and forbidding evil. And what happens is it turns into division, which is what we are faced with today. This nation, we are divided into different sects, different groups. And it all comes about as a result of enjoining good and forbidding evil and doing it in the wrong way. Disbelief, corruption, and disobedience. This stuff leads to evil. And a person or a group of people may fall into sin and disobedience. Then there's another group around them that keeps quiet about it and doesn't say anything. Let me give an example. You know that the neighbor next door, another Muslim family, you see that their daughter is sneaking out of her house every night. Every night at 2 a.m, she climbs out her window without a hijab on and runs across the yard and gets in a car with somebody's car that you don't know. You see this happening. But instead of you speaking out against it, you say, well, ain't none of my business. Then you hear later on that the girl's pregnant. Okay? It ain't no mystery to you because you knew she was sneaking out the house. But what did you do to try to stop it? What did you do to try to help that family? Well, there's a third group. You got the group that commits sin. You got the group that does nothing about the sins they see. And then there's another group. They try to do what's right, but they do it in a way that's forbidden by Allah. You call yourself correcting somebody when you don't even know if what they're doing is wrong, or you're not in a position to approach them because you're a fornicator yourself, or you do it in a way that's not nice, that's unkind. And this is what leads to what we have today: division amongst us, hatred amongst us, enmity amongst us. And this all happens because it's our nature as human beings to be dalun, which means to be criminal, to be attracted to sin. Allah tells us that in the Quran. And the criminality or the oppression or the foolishness that we suffer from, that too falls in different groups. The oppression and foolishness of the first group of people, the one that's committing sin, this is one type. They're just ignorant. While the oppression and foolishness of the second group and the third groups, the ones who knew about the sin and kept quiet, and the ones who called themselves stopping the sin, but they did it in the wrong way, those are of different types. So it shows how we are as people. We're different. We're different. Anyone who thinks about the chaos that affects other Muslims will see that, yes, indeed, this is why in 2024 we are so messed up as a nation. Anyone who looks at what's going on in our communities, look at what's going on with us on the internet. You know, it's not a mystery why the war is here. All of this confusion which occurs, you know, it's occurring because we're creating it. Because once again, we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the understanding of Islam. That's a big sin. We don't weigh the pros. We don't weigh the cons before we deal with a situation. We don't use critical thinking. As I was talking about in my 6 o'clock class, we're so quick to just say, oh, these people are just bad and just they on their own. Or we're so quick to throw in the towel. We have to use critical thinking. Not to mention the fact that because of our lack of knowledge and understanding of this religion, we end up innovating. We end up introducing things into this religion that are not a part of it, that go against it, like protesting. Protesting is haram. I've given you the dalil. What's the dalil again? What are you protesting? You're protesting against the qadr of Allah. Allah says everything that happens, good and bad, comes from him. He said war comes from him. He's the one that brings it. And he told us why he brings it. So what are you protesting? You're protesting the qadr of Allah. You're boycotting the qadr of Allah. Okay? So innovation. You're taking on the ways of the kafir. You're behaving like the kafir. The kafirs protest. The kafirs boycott because they don't believe in Allah. They believe that man makes his own destiny. They believe that man has the power to change, not Allah. So you're just like the kafir. You're an innovator. And all of this, leads to us to go astray even more. All of this causes us to fail as a nation even more. And then we got some people of sin who oppress themselves by not just disobeying Allah, by doing the things he told them not to do, but they'll go on and try to convince others to join them in it. You're going to convince other people it's okay to get high because you like marijuana. It's okay. Okay? Because you like to fornicate. It's okay. You only live once. It's okay. Allah will forgive us eventually. All we need is an ounce of faith to come out of hell. How many of you have heard Muslims say that? So as you can see, this is the criminality of us as humans. Sins are desired by our nature. This is a normal condition of the human soul. Okay? It's also a normal condition of the human soul that the soul doesn't like to be told it's wrong too. Why is it that a lot of you don't like listening to me? Because I'm telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I'm not sugarcoating this deen for you. I use dalil. I'm reminding you what Allah said. I'm not here to appease you. So it's our nature to be attracted to what is bad and dirty. And it's also the nature of the soul to not want to be corrected about it either. Also, it's part of the human soul to be superior too. Nobody likes being told that they're going to hell. Nobody likes being told that they know less than someone else, because the human soul wishes to be superior over others. The human soul is attracted to being better than others, including better than Allah. That's what Fir'aun wanted. Also, the human soul is jealous. The human soul doesn't want others to excel above it. And so it will go so far as to wish for the destruction of others just to appease itself. So here we can see, guys, all of this. The nature of the human soul plays a big role in how we enjoy the good and how we forbid the evil. Some people just don't want to enjoy and forbid because they don't care. Some people can be envious of you and hope that the worst happens to you. So they'll tell you half the truth or tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. Okay? And jealousy. I want to emphasize this because most of you listening to me, hopefully, are women. And we women suffer with jealousy. Why is it that the sister that came here today and asked me about the fatwa that's out. There's a fatwa, some imam, some famous mufti speaker is telling them, the women, that there's nothing wrong with them doing phone sex, earning money for phone sex, because working at McDonald's and working at Starbucks, working at any of those places is supporting Israel, which all of that is a lie. McDonald's, Starbucks, none of them places support Israel. All of that is a lie. All that is Islamic, is Muslim, ignorant Muslim propaganda, Kharijite propaganda. Okay? So they're going to tell the woman that she'd be better off becoming a sex operator, doing phone sex to earn her living. You know, why would you tell her that? Based on your own personal likes and dislikes. But like the sister said, there's a lot of women that will listen to these men. They rather listen to what these men than come and ask me. I'm a female dyer, and I'm known for speaking the truth. Everybody know I back up my stuff with hadith. These brothers don't. But those sisters are too jealous to come and hear what I got to say. That jealousy is the reason why there's going to be more women in hell than men. You rather listen to a wayward man tell you a lie than listen to an intelligent woman, because that woman is more intelligent than you. And you don't want to admit that there's a woman better than you out there. See how we are? That's why it's going to be more of us in hell. Jealousy, that envy, you know, it gets in the way more than anything else of us doing the right thing. And the sad reality is, on the day of judgment, not even then, when you're in your grave, when the angel of death pulls your soul from your throat, when you die, they're going to ask you, why didn't you listen to Sister Laila? They're going to ask you, why didn't you know that phone sex is haram? Sister Laila was there. You could have called her. You could have joined her stream. She would have broke it down for you. She would have given the hadiths. But no, you're too jealous. You let your jealousy of her stand in the way. So you chose to follow and listen to a wayward man. You know, the choices that we make in this world, when it comes to enjoining good and forbidding evil, they're going to come and bite us at the time of death. Because when the angel of death pulls each and every one of our souls, they let you know. You're going to know if you're going to hell or not. They'll tell you whether or not you're going to hell. You'll know. It won't be a mystery then. The mystery will be whether or not you stay there permanently. But they're going to let you know, I'm pulling your soul, and you will spend your time in the grave in hell. They'll tell you that, if that's where you're destined to be. So again, guys, we have to start making the right choices. You don't want to be the group that makes the wrong choice because you don't know what you are enjoining and what you're forbidding. You don't want to be in the group that does nothing at all either. And then you don't want to be in the group, you know, that causes chaos due to jealousy, due to your own hatred, your own jealousy, dislike, and love, and all that crap. Okay? All right, so I'm going to stop right here.